Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and today I wanted to go over a topic that see a lot of people talking about. Some people are kind of freaking out about it or down about it. I don't know, it's kind of got me all not feeling great, and that's the state of Hearthstone in 2022. Is it a dying game? Is it time to move on from Hearthstone? And, you know, Hearthstone Mathematics made this video about it. Regis also talked about it. I watched most of the Mathematics video, but I didn't watch Regis's take on it because I wanted to give you mine own without any, you know, outside sources kind of influencing it. And, you know, you come to me for the honest takes, the guy who craps on everything Blizzard, keeps him accountable, and he's probably going to, you know, hop on this bagwagon and shit all over Hearthstone and say it's dying and then be happy about it because that means his channel's going to do badly and all that. But anyways, I wanted to go over kind of like how I feel the game's doing, but like I gotta establish what's going on. So with Hearthstone, we don't have any numbers available for us. We're never told how many players there are other than like press release, like, you know, little pamphlet things. None of that information is available on like Steam, where you can see like concurrent players and all of that. We don't know official, like, you know, financial background too much. It's in the publicly traded statements, but it's not quite there. We have the main things we have to work with are social metrics. So like Twitch, YouTube, social media, Google Trends, all of that. And yeah, Hearthstone absolutely is a shell of its former self on those metrics. It has declined tremendously since the game launched in 2014, particularly on Twitch. It used to be like one of the top games on there, and now it's like a top 20 game, which is respectable. And I think a lot of people forget about, you know, with Twitch and Hearthstone, when Twitch and Hearthstone kind of grew together, they both kind of launched together, and Hearthstone was basically the unofficial just chatting channel. It had like, it was mostly a drama channel, if anything. Look at like Wizard Poker, go through their like videos. They were like an old Hearthstone channel. It's all drama stuff. Reckful exposes Masan for view botting, or Reynad goes in on, I think they were feuding with Amaz and stuff like that. Like all these old drama things had nothing to do about Hearthstone. You don't really see that these days because most of that stuff just transitioned to just chatting, which is a category in Twitch that was made later where people don't even have to stream themselves play games. They can just talk, shit talk, or stream themselves in a hot tub or whatever, you know? So that diluted a lot of the viewership right away. Like honestly, that was a big deal. Like Hearthstone was the unofficial just chatting channel. But of course you have other games that have emerged since then. All you have to do is like take a look at the Google Trends of Hearthstone versus Magic the Gathering Arena. You can kind of see that, you know, Magic came in and it took a big bite out of Hearthstone, and they're relatively evenish on Google Trends, with Hearthstone being a bit above. But you can also take a look at Hearthstone on Google Trends. It has been slowly declining, but not that much. Like, outside of initial surge, right? The initial surge, which, you know, it's a brand new game. It's going to get that initial surge. It's not quite the same. But again, if you look at like, you know, the non-just chatting Hearthstone streamers, take a look at Criperion, right? Take a look at his numbers the last year. It's really scary. He's down over 20% total viewership. Which is terrifying. Like, he's one of the biggest names in Hearthstone, and he doesn't even average 10,000 viewers a stream anymore. And back when I was like a mod for him and watching him every day, he did like a Old God stream where he had over 100,000 viewers at Hearthstone launch for the expansion launch for Old Gods, just opening packs. It was a crazy time. But again, those days are kind of behind us. But again, the competition is so fierce on, like, there's so many more games, and there's so many more games fighting for that same market space and doing things better than Hearthstone in a lot of ways. And I'm going to talk about at the end of the video 4 major things that I think Hearthstone needs to do better at to try and capture some of this back. But at least in terms of Twitch, yeah, it's way down. It's scary. Another big part of that is just the esports scene leaving. We have the whole like HS esports scene move to YouTube, which did hurt, but I think people overstate that one a bit. The Grandmaster system was terrible. It was already declining significantly before it went over to YouTube, but you still, like, you know, tons of viewers for World Championships that disappeared. So that hurts like the visibility of the game. Like every weekend you log in onto Twitch, you see Rocket League with like 100,000 viewers every week, and you can't help but, you know, want to check out more Rocket League stuff, right? You don't have that with Hearthstone because you don't have that top esports thing. But again, for every decline you have in like Twitch and stuff, you still have people up and coming. You take a look at Silvername. Silvername is a huge huge content creator now. He gets like 15, 20,000 viewers on average a stream. He didn't used to do that. No Hands Gamers emerged as a competitive standard streamer. He's averaging like 1,000 viewers. Even someone like myself, I started with like 10 or 20 viewers 4 years ago. I'm around 300 or 400 viewers. It's a market you can still grow in, you can still do well in, and it's not like dying, right? There's still some health there. If I can come in and make some money off of it, I feel like there's still some validity to it. And if you look at YouTube, again, the metrics don't look great. A lot of it's declining. You take a look, again, I hate to use Crip as an example, but Crip is like the OG. He's like kind of the benchmark to look at. You know, a good month for him is losing 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers. But you have to remember, he came in during the boom of it. He's still getting like over 100,000 views a day, which is like insane amount of views. It's just in comparison to the old days, it's not quite the same. But again, is the game dying or is it just kind of stagnant and declining? And I think we're just in that stagnant, declining state. If you look at this type of stuff, and again with YouTube, you look, okay, if the game is dying and it's not going to be recovering, how does someone like myself, started YouTubing less than 2 years ago, go from 100 subs to 42, almost 42,000 in just under 2 years? And same with like Rar, and he's doing extremely well. If you look at his Social Blade, I think he's up like almost like 5,000 subs in like the last month or so. He's killing it with like his high quality edited videos. So like, there are plenty of creators still growing in this market. So if you're looking at the creator market, that number to base how a game is doing, which you don't honestly do, but it's one of the metrics we use, it's doing fine. It's doing perfectly fine. People are growing still. People are still steady, but no one's like, the OGs aren't popping off anymore because that isn't there. But you still have the new like third gen of streamers coming in and making a living for themselves and making a name for themselves. And maybe there is that next boom of Hearthstone that these guys can take advantage of. And wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, so yeah, you look at that, like people like to say all the numbers are way down, all that it is, but you have to look at the grand scheme of things. They're way down from a number that was basically unrealistic to start with the whole just chatting thing, with the whole new game thing, with the whole lack of competition. And it's just settled into a nice niche that does relatively well and is still very profitable for content creators, for Blizzard themselves. So content creation wise, seems to be doing well. The game itself, think about when Hearthstone was at its boom, what all the stuff they were doing. They had expansions and yeah, that was it. And then they had adventures, and then you might have like at some point dungeon runs, right? They weren't even putting that much in. The last 3 years, we've seen battlegrounds, we've seen duels, we've seen mercenaries, and we've seen classic mode. We've seen like 4 new modes in the last couple of years. We've seen more staff brought in than ever to the Blizzard team. And we're seeing more updates and more like cosmetics and more everything than ever. To me, that's not a sign of a game that's dying. That's a sign of a company that's doing pretty well and pushing out even more content to take advantage of what, you know, the demand that's out there. Is it booming? No, but it's doing well. There are 4 major things I think that are holding Hearthstone back from being back to like a top tier booming game, not just a stagnant, healthy-ish game that's just, it's going to do fine, but you know, it's not really going to take anyone by charge. And first, I do believe this is important, that the standard meta not be garbage, that the standard meta be something that appeals to the masses. You know, we've talked about the quests, we've talked about OTKs, we've talked about the non-interactive state of the game. It's a polarizing meta, and there's no reason to ever have a polarizing meta in the game. You should want to appeal to the masses. You shouldn't have an outcry from half the community or a good chunk of it that just says the game sucks. And you're like, well, there's some people that like it and we're not going to, you know, change things because some people. No, you should be appealing to as many people as possible and then having the small minority be pissed off that they don't like the meta. But that seems to be the opposite of what we're at now, right? With the whole quest lines, with the way their interaction is with the meta these days. I feel like they're so out of touch. I will not stop saying that. I feel they're out of touch with what a lot of people want, and it shows, especially with, you know, the whole standard numbers down. Also, the game just needs to be more accessible. It absolutely has to be. This is not 2014 anymore. The competition is fierce out there. Games are easier to get into than ever, and Hearthstone is still antiquated in its mechanics of getting into the game. Imagine you enter the game today of Hearthstone. You do get like a free deck, you get, you know, some goodies and stuff, but you might get like 1 or 2 decks. Imagine you want to try out Wild, you want to try out Duels, you want to try out all this cool stuff. The barrier to entry is like, just, it's a terrifying mess. You're never going to get into it because of the wild cards, all the stuff stuff you need. Like, you can't buy old adventures with gold. Wild packs cost the same as standard packs, despite the fact that the majority of wild cards are complete garbage and can only be used in limited modes. They have made the game just, even though it's more accessible than before, it is still far and beyond what it needs to be. And it's going to be hard to have a big boom and be that accessible to the masses if your game is just, it's going to have that paywall that people can't get around. So I feel like the whole like pay to win aspect or the paywall aspect of Hearthstone is still way too much if they want to be part of that like mass group of games, you know? Like, there's so many games out there you could play entirely for free and just, you know, you get cosmetics and stuff, right? And Hearthstone, you have to pay a premium for the cosmetics and a premium for the packs and all that stuff, and mercenaries, God knows what else. Like, it's way too expensive still. The other issue is the game client running like it launched in 2014 or something. It's still buggy as hell. Achievements take 2 months to fix. The game constantly crashes. It gets laggy. Every patch, there's a bunch of more bugs. It's just, it looks embarrassing. And when you see a bunch of that stuff, why are you going to want to try out a game that's a buggy mess? Or you install it, it crashes on you. It's just awful. Why would you keep playing it, right? Like, that's another thing that's going to keep accessibility down to the masses. The game needs to operate at a much better rate, and we're just not seeing that. It has gotten worse, not better. It's gotten a lot worse over the past couple of years with all the stuff they've added. Their QA and their resources to that have been just terrible, and it needs to get better if they want to emerge and not just have the diehards stick around that will put up with this garbage, you know, because we're that invested. Like, you know, I want to get that achievement done for Paladin eventually. Yeah, they'll eventually fix it, right? And it's been like 2 months, which is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable, and this stuff keeps happening. And then lastly, and probably honestly the most important, outside of the accessibility, I think the paywall part is probably the most important. Bad PR. We had the battle pass thing, which, well, it was good PR for me, I guess. It helped boost my channel, but looked terrible. It made them look even greedier, and it made them look like they were lying, which I still will not drop back down on. They were lying about it initially. They did correct it, but, you know, you had the battle pass, you had the Blitzchung incident where they suspended him for saying, you know, just the things he said, and that looked horrible, and they eventually downgraded the suspension and stuff, but it again made national news. It was awful. And even more like recent incidents, not quite nearly as big, obviously, but like the Dustgate situation with the poor communication. And, you know, I won't put the Bobby Kotick, the lawsuit stuff on the Hearthstone team. I feel like that's out of their hands. But overall, the bad PR has been a big part of like why people just, they don't want to go near Blizzard games, right? Like, they hear all this crap all the time. They just don't even want to give the game a try because they hear the stuff. So yeah, those are like the positives, the negatives. I do not think Hearthstone is dying. I actually think it's in a relatively healthy spot. It is relatively stagnant. It is declining, but you have creators booming in a market that's, you know, not doing amazingly well, but it's healthy, and there's plenty of room for them just to improve things, have it go a little bit up, and you never know, there could be another boom. But in today's age, I just can't see it with the whole, I really think that just chatting part is a really important part of that argument for why it was so big on Twitch. But I don't think Hearthstone's dying. I think it's in a good spot, and I do see a lot of good changes that have happened the past couple of years that I hope they will continue to improve upon. Like the game being more accessible, it needs to be more, but it has been more accessible, more modes, more things for people to do. It just needs to be more affordable, more streamlined, more efficient. And I feel like Hearthstone will be in a good spot and isn't as bad as some people might make it out to be. So there you go. There's your message from Mr. Positive Zeddy. Always positive. What a Blizzard shill. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.